1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Ben's MicroVision Podcast, a podcast for general information and entertainment purposes only, not a financial advice podcast. In this episode, we're going to go through some viewer questions, look at the news of the day, try to evaluate what's going on in the automotive LiDAR space, take a look at some stuff happening on the military side, and try to round out everything that we know about the company today. For those of you who are new, my name's Ben. I am the author of Ben's MicroVision blog going back since 2004, which is wild, and I was MicroVision's global product manager for wearable displays between 2006 and 2011. I've maintained my love for the company ever since, and I'm happy to bring this podcast to you with the goal of providing the very best MicroVision-related information that I can. So with that, let's get to it. All right, welcome everybody to episode 13 of Ben's MicroVision Podcast. This one's titled Full Waveform LIDAR. It's presented by myself. It's brought to you by LaserRoasted.com. This is my specialty coffee brand that is providing the freshest coffee. It's roasted to order. So when you go to LaserRoasted.com and you buy a bag of coffee, it will be roasted on the spot and then delivered to you at the peak of freshness. So be sure to check it out. It's laserroasted.com. All right, what do we got? We got a disclaimer. Disclaimer is here to tell you that even though I used to work for MicroVision, I no longer work for MicroVision. I haven't since 2011, so that's 14 years now. So I'm not speaking for the company. I'm speaking for myself. And I'm just telling you the information to the best of my ability. In the event I miss something, it just is what it is, and everybody should refer to this disclaimer if they have further questions. The IAA Mobility September 8th, 2025 press event from MicroVision will be called How MicroVision Redefines LiDAR for the Automotive Industry. So I can't wait to see that. It's just, I guess, a couple weeks away now, and we're going to learn a whole bunch about MicroVision's new offer. So MicroVision's new offer is brought to us by Glen DeVos. Glen DeVos is the CTO and apparently is acting product manager for the automotive LiDAR product. So this is great. So what do we know about what they're going to unveil on September 8th. A couple of quotes from the recent earnings call. A new architecture which Glen will introduce at IAA in September in Munich is instrumental to the automotive opportunities. It provides OEMs with a wider operational design domain while making solutions cost competitive for larger volume adoption. So that was Sumit Sharma's quote. And Glen went on to tease the reveal with the following. We believe we have a much more efficient system architecture that delivers better performance, smaller packaging, lower power consumption, and ultimately will enable the OEMs to offer these features at lower total system cost of the vehicle. So really excited about what we can do there. The technologies we have that enable this, unveiling at IAA in early September. So a lot more to come here. But this is, we're literally redefining LiDAR for automotive. The process that has been taken prior to this has led to very low adoption rates, very low penetration. We're redefining it. We're going to enable it to be much more broadly applied, ultimately down to level 2 in standard ADAS systems. That's what we're trying to do, says Glen. So, wow. What Glen is saying is that the new LiDAR architecture that's going to be unveiled in a couple of weeks is going to be cost competitive with the current systems that they use, which are camera and radar based. So what do we have up our sleeve that could allow us to provide level 3 type performance with a level 2 type cost structure? I don't know. Let's find out. Okay, so a little bit more about Glen here. Glen was the CTO of Aptiv, which was formerly known as Delphi, and he was there for 30 years. This is a gigantic company he was CTO of. They made $20 billion in revenue in 2023. Glen was the president of Advanced Safety and User Experience, so he's building the integrated safety, perception, and user systems across multiple OEM platforms. So this is a been there, done that guy when it comes to automotive safety and high technology embedded inside of these vehicles. He's the architect of the smart vehicle system strategy. He's built scalable architectures for wiring, power, and software to support autonomy in vehicles. He's hands-on with LIDAR. He was involved with MVIS at one point and evaluating all the LIDAR systems that are available commercially. And he is a big proponent that LIDAR is the key to widespread deployment of advanced ADAS and autonomy features. Glen oversaw Aptiv's self-driving ride-hailing pilots with Lyft, so he can help demonstrate how to scale high technology into commercial environments. And now he's CTO of MicroVision, recruited, I would imagine, specifically to accelerate the LiDAR go-to-market strategy and secure OEM traction based on his relationships with all these OEMs and his history of execution at the very highest level in the automotive industry. So we talked about heavy hitters with the Defense Industry Board, and we were right on that. And here's another heavy hitter, but in this case, in the automotive industry, he has performed high-level work in automotive, specifically in automation of automotives. And here he is working for MicroVision. It's pretty cool. So this is a guy with a lot of gravitas and a lot of credibility and a lot of experience and a lot of relationships in the automotive industry. And he's going to be championing a new architecture that he may position as a baseline standard for level 3 plus type systems. LiDAR being essential. And I think the more that time goes along where the camera-only robotaxi pilot in Austin kind of seems to spin its wheels without going anywhere, that I think helps to reinforce the fact that LiDAR really is essential for autonomy. We've heard the Ford CEO say it, and now we just sort of see it manifesting in the market with the proliferation of Waymo and the small geofenced area that Tesla is able to support. Solid-state LiDAR for affordability and MicroVision's scalable cost advantage. So one of the things that you might have heard on the earnings call is that cost is the driving factor, and I think he talked about that also at the Retail Investor Day. So he's trying to reinforce the idea that first you have to make it inexpensive, and then the volume will come, which is I guess flipping it around. The traditional thought is, well, the first few units are going to be, more expensive because you've got to, amortize your cost against fewer units, and then as it scales, each unit costs less, etc. But Glen is coming and saying, we'll make it cheap out of the gate. Now, how is he going to do this? I don't know, but I look forward to finding out. So he's already been through prototype to production transition. He's got the relationships. He's got the credibility. He's going to deliver this cost-improved solution that will apparently meet the OEM's needs for autonomy and sensor capability. Glen's also a huge sensor fusion guy. So he's going to position the MicroVision solution as not just the LiDAR sensor, but as the core fusion-ready intelligence module, meaning to say the camera, the radar, the LiDAR fused and integrated on the MicroVision chip, and then the processing happens right there at the module on the edge there. In other more important news, I'm happy to unveil the contest to name the laser roasted mascot. Here you can see him laser roasting beans for peak freshness. We've got a couple entries already. Bully Wagner proposes Lasersaurus roastin'. View from afar suggests Lazarus. Direct green laser suggests Roasty Baristazilla. All of these are fantastic, but let's see if we can get a few more. Add your entry into the comments for the chance to win something spectacular that is yet to be determined, but I still look forward to seeing if any of you have any great ideas for what to name this magnificent creature. All right. So you may say, Ben, why would an accomplished C-level executive at a $20 billion company choose to come to a small company like MicroVision when presumably he could go to the golf course and just relax and enjoy himself? This is a really important question because it speaks to what motivates people to operate at the highest level. Tiger Woods could have quit playing golf after he made his first $10 million, but he didn't. He kept going until his legacy was secured as the greatest golfer of all time. So people who are extremely competitive and driven like this will choose to put themselves in challenging situations when they have the opportunity through their experience and know-how and capability to drag an organization from one place to another through sheer force of will and knowledge and experience. So this is what you hire a C-level executive to do. And I think it's wonderful when people are motivated by passion and not just because they need a job. So I'm happy to see this, and I think MicroVision can probably rely on Glen having a lot of contacts, a lot of insight, and having gone through this process for multiple years, understands what it's going to take to put an entirely new sensing modality into millions of vehicles. So this is our guy. Let's see what happens. All right, viewer questions. In the last episode, I was talking about the drone swarm coordination product that MicroVision is going to be demonstrating next year, and some viewer questions arose from that conversation, including T. Don B., who asks, I would be interested to hear about what kind of data would be shared within a network system. What would one drone broadcast to the others? Does this make sense for cars? That is an amazing question. I don't know the answer about cars, but we'll talk about the rest of it. Great stuff, Ben. Has anyone speculated about how these drones will communicate with each other? Lasers, asks MVIS Bath. And then Long Vision 168 says, I've wondered that too. Also, will drones flying in swarms with navigation being processed at the edge be less susceptible to communication jamming? So, wow, this just goes to show you the level of discourse that we have here on Ben's MicroVision podcast, and of course the MicroVision Reddit board, where there's a thread each week. Thanks to the moderators there for putting that up. And we have a nice discussion, and people will ask questions, or they'll say thanks for the episode, and I'll say thank you for watching. So that's all great. But let's dig into some of these questions. Okay, how drones might share in denied environments. So they might share maps or mission data, and there's no GPS and there's no radio frequency support. So if you're in this denied environment where there's no GPS, the communications are jammed, and you have degraded radio frequency availability, you need a decentralized peer-to-peer method of keeping a common operational picture. So MicroVision-enabled drones could do this through the LIDAR process. They're going to scan the terrain, build a 3D map of their surroundings using the MicroVision LIDAR capability. Then the onboard edge AI, and this is me imagining what I think they're going to do. And so this is not an official thing, but this is just what I think. Given the available information, these are some things I think we could intuit. Could be wrong, could be right. I was right that drone swarm coordination was a thing that they should do. So that doesn't mean I'm right about this, but it means that I have been right before. Okay, so once the drones perform the mapping, then they're going to perform the edge AI. So each drone will then compress the content down to the essential data element that's necessary for sharing. So that could be some type of map that has a condensed data size. It could be specific keyframes or tokens that are generated by the onboard AI. So from the 10 million points per second down to this object with this name or type is at this coordinate, right? So that size of that data packet is much smaller. And then a local mesh networking, instead of high power RF, they can use low power short range links like infrared, millimeter wave, or even optical laser links. So the concept would be they don't share the whole map, they share the relevant compressed pieces that are necessary to propagate that common operational picture. So what the Edge AI on the MicroVision LiDAR device enables is for the drone to capture the high volume data set and then transform the high volume data set into the essential elements on the spot. And so the essential elements are probably something like a pose and trajectory update. I'm here, this is what I'm looking at, and I'm going this fast. And then map segments. You could say there's an obstacle here, there's a tower here, there's a building here. So basically an object name, an object type, and a coordinate from the 10.8 million dots per second down to just that. And then they could also declare something to be a vehicle, a human, a tree line, some form of tagging of the environment and the things that are sensed to be within that environment. They could also annotate points on the map and say this is where the target is located, this is where the threat is located, and this is where it's safe to move through. So as they're gathering the data with the sensors, they're analyzing the content, and then they can label things that they see appropriately. Okay, so some potential inter-drone communication methods could include IR LEDs or laser diode links have a particularly short range, a line of sight. This could be useful in a close formation swarm or a urban or indoor type of operation. The LED links would require line of sight in order to work. So if the drone was separated by an object of some kind, then that wouldn't necessarily be a good approach. Alternatively, millimeter wave is a radio type of technology that involves directional beams that reduce the detectability. It would draw some power, but it would draw less than the next option, which is free space optics or laser based communication through free space. This would involve a higher degree of power consumption, but it would provide a very long range between maybe the mothership and the swarm leader or what have you. I'm not an expert in this type of communication, so if anybody watching is a scientist in either radio frequencies or free space optics communication and wants to share with us about more information on these topics, that would be great. So maybe somebody out there has some good information for us. So another view of how we might imagine this could work is you've got drone A on the left and drone B on the right. Drone A is scanning the environment with the MicroVision LIDAR. It compresses the data into a feature map. It then fires a short infrared burst to drone B, sending maybe 50 kilobytes of semantic tokens. This would be like target at this location kind of thing. Then drone B adds it to its map, and then the two of them together, you can imagine a larger swarm, are sharing some heartbeat packets. They're saying, I'm alive, here's where I am, here's where I'm headed. And there's nothing to say that they could only include one of the potential communications methods that was described previously. They could and have all three on board and adapt to which is the most appropriate one to use based on how far away the person they're talking to is, or the drone, and what's the most efficient means to relay the information. It's a pretty cool thing to think about. If you're like me, you think about MicroVision-powered drones and MicroVision-powered soldiers as having a great deal of synergy. So we just talked about how the MicroVision-powered drones are going to perform their mission and communicate amongst themselves so they can have a common operational picture. But what's equally important is transmitting that common operational picture to the soldier on the ground. Soldier on the ground is going to be wearing an augmented reality helmet or eyewear capability that needs to take this data, integrate it into its own view of the world, and then deliver it to the soldier. So they need to enable him with the coordinates of the target or where he's meant to go and give him the information, because they're all flying way far ahead. So they understand the terrain, they understand the battlefield, they understand the enemies because they see them all with the LiDAR. Now they have to deliver that information back to the soldier. And so what that does is, of course, make the soldier much safer. Is not wandering blind into a potentially bad situation. They're going to be more effective because they can see from the sky the entirety of the situation on the ground. And of course, the seeing happens potentially by virtue of laser beam scanning displays provided by MicroVision. From the Loose Lips Sync Ships file, here's Kopin at the Canaccord Genuity conference. Kopin is another microdisplay provider that works in the military segment, and this is what they had to say on August 13th. I'd be remiss in not talking about our integrated visual acuity system strategy. This is what they call a program called SBMC, or Soldier Borne Mission Command, or IVAS 1.2. You may have heard of a company called Anduril and Palmer Luckey. They've novated that contract from Microsoft. There is a new contract that is going to be let, we believe, this year called Soldier Borne Mission Command. We are working with a number of companies that are bidding for that as prime contractors. Kopin is not bidding as a prime contractor. We are bidding as a key technology acquisition specialist for microdisplays and optics. If Kopin were to win the microdisplay in Soldier Borne Mission Command, that would be an upwards of $500 million to $750 million of revenue to Kopin over the course of 10 years. And I'll say that again, $500 million to $750 million of revenue starting in 2027 for Kopin. So that's the first kind of micro display valuation for the SBMC product opportunity that I've heard anyone speak of. It's really something to see that put out there. But, we'll see. If Kopin wins the deal, they're going to earn this much money, and that would be great for them. But we'll see what happens. All right, so that's going to do it for this week. I have a whole thing planned on full waveform LiDAR, which I thought I was going to get to this week, but it'll wait till next week. And so I look forward to bringing that to you. Again, I want to say thanks to everybody for your comments, kind words, encouragement. I appreciate it a lot, and I really enjoy reading your comments and responding to them. So thank you so much for your thoughtful questions, which of course can come into the episodes and make them richer and more meaningful. So I really appreciate all of that. I thank everybody for buying on Laser Roasted. I've added a reviews widget on there, so if there's a blend or a single origin coffee that you've bought that you really love, just go ahead and put in a review for that, and that'll help the next shopper feel confident in their laserroasted.com purchase. Okay, so thanks again, and we're going to take you out with a little bit of music. So hope you enjoy this, and we'll see you next Saturday.